But today, I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you, always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality, is tragedy, bruh. So keep your head on your shoulders. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving boulders. Now we ain't getting posterized, we out here making posters. And we ain't got nothing to hide, we move forward like soldiers. You better wake up for the pay stub, or you'll pay up. Don't make love to the game, bruh, fuck the game up. Change up, rearrange stuff to your greatness. Same us for the way up, play the game, bruh.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah.
You know I'm always honest, there ain't no way I'm ever stopping.
I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top,
I'm always flirting with pain, she like to hurt me and maim. I'm always working to change, but she's still lurking the same. I keep on building a dynasty while the haters be trying me, but they hate from inside.
All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted here on the Elite Sports Entertainment Network. It has been quite some time. The reason being is I have not had internet in a very long time, well over a month. I've moved. There was a strike with the internet company, so I didn't have internet for a while. So that's why I have not been on screen. But someone who has been and who's been holding it down in my absence, we're finally reunited, and it feels so good. Jay McLovin. Jay, what's up, brothers? Glad to finally be back on the airwaves, on the internet, and glad to be back talking some baseball with you, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You said reunited, and it makes me think of that song, Reunited, and it feels so good. Yeah, baby.
Hey,
it does feel good. You know why? Because not only has it been a while, it means you're coming back to Unscripted, but, baby, both our teams in the post.
We made it. And I think, honestly, Jay, the majority of our network, our teams have made it in. Like you said, the Astros made it, the Braves are in, the Yankees are in. There's a lot of representation. There's a lot of trash talk already going on, and we're just getting started. So what we're going to be doing here today, guys, is we're going to be doing a wild card series prediction. We'll go as the rounds progress. We'll do series by series, but with the wild card game starting officially today on this Tuesday, October the 1st, we thought it would be fitting to go in and talk about and predict all of the wild card series now that all 162 games have been played in the regular season. And if you guys want to check us out on any of our social media, see some original content that you won't find on certain other channels, you can go do so on Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube, and on Twitch as well. And we are also over at LinkedIn as well. If you didn't remember, we are over there. And if you want to connect with us, if you want to come join the network, that's another way you can do so. So just shoot us a message and we'll get back with you as soon as we can. And Jay, I know me and you are amped up, my friend. We are pumped. We are excited for the wild card series. But maybe for those who are on their lunch break, who are just getting home after a long day, and they're tired, Jay. They're tired, and they want to watch some high-quality baseball from the best in the world. Jay, I know exactly where they can go to get that pick-me-up, to reignite themselves, and that is using our promo code ESEN for 10% off your order for W Energy drinks. They have some great flavors out there. They just released some new ones as well. You can get not just some high-quality energy supplements like you see there with the Jitterless Dragonade, which is delicious. They also have some shakers that look really neat as well, some stickers. They have a lot of really neat stuff over there that's not just for consumption. You can use other stuff. They have t-shirts as well, hoodies. So if you want to use any of that, if you want to check out any of that, be sure to use promo code ESEN for 10% off your order, and that way you can stay up for all these late West Coast games here in the MLB Wildcard Series. And Jay, let's get into it, my friend. For the first time in a while, let's talk some sports. The 2024 Wildcard predictions. We'll just start top left and work our way down and around. Up first, It's the Houston Astros in the wild card series taking on a team that mid-season, not a whole lot of people thought would even be in this scenario. You could even, I would say, call them a Cinderella team in the Detroit Tigers. So talk about this matchup. You're going up, Jay, of course, against your old manager in AJ Hinch, a familiar foe. And it did come out today that former Detroit Tiger Justin Verlander will not be on the wild card roster for this series. So just talk about how many games you think this is going to go, and what do you expect to see out of Detroit in this first series here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all knew that Verlander was going to get left off the roster. You know, he still has not, I don't believe, and I think he's even said that he does not feel like he's fully come back from that neck issue. And I think they really kind of rushed him a little quicker than he really rushed himself quicker than what he was ready for. So, you know, I expect to have a good, solid Verlander come next season. I think he will be back next season. I know Frankie said that he might be done. I think he's going to be back, and I think it's going to come back better and stronger. But having said that, he won't be with us. So we got to, you know, look at it beyond that. And so when you look at game one, let's take this game one, you know, take it game by game. Well, before we even get into that, AJ Hinch, it's a great storyline, right? AJ Hinch said he finally got over the 2017 debacle. You know, he goes out and goes to Detroit, resurrects a crumbling Detroit franchise, and gets it back to the postseason. So if anybody thinks that AJ Hinch has to cheat to win games, bull crap. I think he's proven it with Detroit. So the guy is still a damn good manager. I mean, really good, solid manager. And he knows our roster. We know his roster. We know him. He knows us. So it's not going to be anything, quote unquote, that's just going to come out of nowhere, right? We already know what to expect, and they know what to expect. I expect this to be a good, hard-fought series, to be honest with you. You know, when you go back and you look at it, you know, we're going to take – it's going to be Tariq – or excuse me. One more point I wanted to make real quick is Espada was actually brought into Houston by AJ Hinch. So they have a very tight bond, both of these managers, as Espada was appointed by Hinch to be the bench coach prior to the 2018 season. Obviously, Hinch then went on to be let go and then went on to Detroit. And then, of course, we brought in Dusty Baker. But it's the constant of both of those guys is Espada was there for both of those regimes. And Espada has said that he learned a lot from AJ Hinch. So I really expect to see a lot of really good managerial competitiveness in this series. It's going to be awesome to watch. Now let's get into it. So now you got the first game up. You got Tyreek Skubal, a lefty, versus Framber Valdez, another lefty. And look, I get it, man. You know, Tyreek Skubal is up or has gotten the Triple Crown, right? And then you got him going up against Framber. And again, Framber is just as good, I think, as Skubal is, right? You had Framber, who last posting had a rough go of it, and I'll talk more about that here in a second. But he really went and consulted a therapist to really improve his mental toughness, which I thought was a big part of the game that he was lacking. So he really has, you know, got his mental toughness where it needs to be, and he's going to need it to go throughout this postseason. So again, you got battle of lefty versus lefty. When you look at Skubal, he's 18-4 with a 2.39 ERA. To Valdez at 15-7 with a 2.91 ERA. So I expect to see really, really strong starting pitching in this series. Detroit's last 5 was 3-2. Houston's last 5 was 3-2. But I want to point out that we were dominating the Cleveland Guardians going into the postseason, and we all were putting our starters in there. So it wasn't like it was a sham series. It was a legit series, which is going to be amazing because when we do get past Detroit, and I do expect us to get past Detroit, we will be facing Cleveland Guardians to get to the ALCS, and having that momentum over them going into the postseason is a great psychological advantage, in my opinion. So that's kind of how the last 5 went as we enter into this wild card series. The Astros obviously don't have Kendall Graveman, and they also are without Taylor Scott. Obviously, Taylor Scott, you know, in the regular season was an incredible bullpen mid-level, or not mid-level, but middle of the rotation pitcher. So we will be kind of hurt not having Taylor Scott with us, but they have Hector Neris. He brought back from last year's team, And I fully expect Hector to handle that middle of the rotation along with Kyle Ort and so forth. So I think our middle rotation is going to be just fine, even without Kendall Graveman and Taylor Scott. When you look at the tail of the tail stats between these guys, Houston owns them on the offensive side. And I'll give you that. Average is Detroit's batting average is 234 to Houston at 262. Runs at 682 for Detroit, 740 for Houston. Hits is 1273 for Detroit, 1448 for Houston, and home runs at 162 Detroit, 190 Houston. On base percentage at 300 for Detroit, 322 for Houston, and slugging percentage to round out that specific category is at 385 Detroit to 418 Houston. So you can clearly see that Houston has a dominant edge on every single statistical batting category there is. Now, we turn over to the pitching side. You do start to see Detroit have the edge there, but it ain't by a whole hell of a lot, right? When you look at the ERA, Detroit's at 3.61, Houston's at 3.74, not much difference. When you look at the WHIP, they're at 1.16, Houston's at 1.24. Again, pretty close. When you look at the walks, they're at 416, we're at 544. That is a huge advantage, though, right there in favor of Detroit. But when it comes to the strikeouts, this is where we kind of get them at 1354 Detroit, 1479 Houston. And then when you look at the opponent's batting average, it's 233 Detroit, 231 to Houston. So all the big categories Houston has. And the ones that we don't have is so minuscule that it's really not going to have a whole lot of weight. So I got to tell you, I do believe that this is a home field advantage for Houston. And I do think that heavily the stats are in favor of us, and we are favored in this. When you look at the head-to-head, Logan, the Tigers have 2 wins on Houston. Houston has 4 on them. So it's a 4-2 head-to-head advantage, Houston Astros. When you look at the runs, 27 for the Tigers versus 29 Houston. 9 home runs for the Tigers, 5 home runs Houston. And then when you look at the ERA between this head-to-heads, it's 4.85 ERA for the Tigers and 4.42 Houston. Again, in all of that head-to-head categorical status, Houston owns this team, clear and simple. And I fully expect that to come to fruition in this series. I think this is one of the keys to this series is it's going to be a bullpen series. I think it's going to be who has the better bullpen. Well, if you look at my bullpen, I just told you the weakness is the middle part of the rotation, but it's not so weak that we can't overcome it. When you look at the rotation starting, and then when you look at the back end of it all, you know, there's nobody has a better back end than Abreu, Presley, and Hader. I think that alone speaks volumes. So we can start it, we can end it just as good. And then if there's any weakness, it'd be right there in the middle with Hector Neris and Ort. But I don't think it's going to be so much a weakness that's going to kill Houston by any means. Houston overcame a 7-19 start to win the AL West. So they are definitely battle tested. And they obviously got off to a slow start, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And again, I think Valdez lost three of his playoff starts last year. And I think the redemption side of it is that mental health counseling that he got to be mentally tougher is going to help him overcome that. Again, he gave up 19 hits on 12 runs during last year's postseason. I do not expect to see that this postseason, given all the work that he has put into it. We look at Skubal. I don't want to discount this guy at all because he is amazing. 228 strikeouts to go with 18 wins at a 2.39 ERA. He became the first American pitcher to win the pitching triple crown since the Cleveland Shane Bieber during the 2020 shortened COVID season. He also is the first time since Verlander back in 2011's full season. So to get the triple crown. So Skubal is 1-1 versus Houston. So he has split with Houston during his 2 outings against us. The last thing on that is for Houston is we are possibly, depending on how Alvarez performs during the warm-ups for today's game, could be off or will be left out possibly. The last time he played was September 22nd when he sprained his knee sliding. So again, he's a game time decision for Alvarez. But I got to tell you, Logan, man, when you look at all the statistical data and you look at all the teams and all the chemistry and all the ties of the management and things of that nature, I fully expect this to be a Houston series. When you look at Blanco, who's obviously flirted with the no-hitter. I think he went 6 no-hit innings on his last time out. Obviously, he's ready to go. Hunter Brown is going to be ready to go. Valdez is ready to go. And so forth. So I think we have a great pitching rotation. I think if Detroit has a chance in hell, it has to be this game. If Detroit doesn't take game 1, which is their best statistical pitching, then I think it's a wrap after that. I think Houston is just way too strong in their starting rotation for it to be anything less, Logan.
No, you brought up a good point. And if Detroit wants to make some waves, if they want to, I don't know if I'd say have a shot, but if they want to have a better chance at beating Houston Ball Club minus Alvarez potentially, we don't know yet. It's got to be game 1. It's going to be with their ace. It's going to be with their guy who's going to end up winning the AL Cy Young in Scooball, right? He has just been tremendous, as you just said. First pitcher to win the Triple Crown since the COVID-shortened season, but even before that, we'll just go back to 2011, back with Verlander, who was coincidentally also on the Tigers at the time. So he's their best chance of winning, but I will say we can't discredit Jack Flaherty, who's been great since he's came over at the trade deadline. He's been good, but game 3, that's a little bit iffy if they go that far. I don't know who is going to be the man to be thrown out there. Will it be Reese Olson? Will it be Maeda, who they've got? Maybe like a Casey Ma. I mean, there's a couple of guys, like a Troy Holt. I mean, there's a few guys you can go with, but there is no okay, this is my stud here, right? This is my top player. Because, Jay, I mean, I know some people don't care about this stat, but it is telling. Wins and losses, Screwball has 18 wins, 4 losses. No one else on the team has more than 8 wins on the ball club. They have 7, they have 6, but no one's got 8. So whenever this guy pitches, Jay, he does wonders. That's why he's going to end up winning the Cy Young, in my opinion, for this team. And when you look at this Tigers roster, when you look at their lineup, when you look at some guys who need to make sure it's okay, if these guys have the hot bat, we have a shot here. I think you got to go out to the outfield first and foremost, right? We got to go with Riley Green, who's got the most home runs on the team. He's got 24 home runs, 74 RBIs, 134 hits on the year, which is great, Jay. But what worries me, though, is yes, he hits 262, but we're in the postseason, though, Jay, and he is their team leader in strikeouts with 156. So you got to be on point. You can't be striking out at that high a clip. Like I said, he has the most on the team by at least 25, if not more. So he will have to bring his A game in terms of just the power. You also have guys like we mentioned with Kerry Carpenter, Colt Keith, just a few other guys who can bring some pop if need be. But it's going to be, I think that the Tigers are going to give a good shot at it, Jay. I think that I don't think they're going to just get steamrolled by any means necessary. They've been a pretty hot team coming into the postseason, but I think that overall, as a lineup and as just a better rotation all in all, I will give the edge to Houston in this series. And I think that the Tigers, I'm not going to say they're going to be up there with you, because I do think that you guys do have a better advantage in terms of as a team hitting and pitching. But I do think that Detroit is on the up and ups, and hey, you can just sometimes tip your cap and say congrats, you made it this far. But I don't know if it's going to be enough, Jay. And my God, Cleveland next series, that's a buzzsaw right there. We'll get to that when we get to that in real life. But let's go down, Jay. Let's keep it in the AL.
If I may, for those who don't know or aren't tracking, it is the first game of today. So it's a 1:30 start time Central on channel ABC.
Yep, I'm about to say that's coming up here. And pretty much as soon as we wrap up doing this episode, it's going to be on. So we'll, like I say, if you're watching us live, you get an early preview of all these games and who we think will ultimately win the series. We'll keep it in the American League, Jay. The Kansas City Royals, another team who a lot of people didn't expect to be in here, taking on the Baltimore Orioles, a team who first half of the year, I mean, God, they were one of the best teams in baseball. A lot of people thought they're going to run away with the division at one point. But we saw kind of second half, they faltered. They haven't been nearly as dominant, nearly as good as we've seen from this team. So do you think the Royals have a better chance at pulling off, I would say, the slight upset, being a 5-4 seed in this wild card game coming up here.
Yeah, for sure. So again, this is the second game of the AL side of it, and it's a 3 p.m. start time on ESPN2.
Yep. Central,
yeah. So you got pitchers Reagans versus Burns tonight. It's a lefty Reagans versus Burns on the right. As you know, Corbin Burns was traded. Was he traded or did he sign? Like, I think he's from Milwaukee over there. I think he was traded, wasn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah. So this was a former Milwaukee player traded over to the Orioles, and I think that was an excellent pickup for Baltimore. You know, when you look at the statistical stats between KC and Baltimore, Baltimore owns every single category offensively versus KC, right? So when you look at the runs, the hits, the home runs, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, they have every single one of the categories belongs to Baltimore. When you look at the pitching, KC does have the pitching 3.76 to 3.94. And then you look at the whip, KC has it at 1.24 to 1. Actually, it's a tie, 1.24 to 1.24. So it negates. And then when you look at the walks, KC's given up 472 to Baltimore's 481. But then when you look at the strikeouts and the batting average, that again belongs to Baltimore. So, you know, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, out of the 11 categories, statistically, KC only owns 3 out of the 11. So 8 out of the 11 belongs to Baltimore. So that just kind of tells you what you can kind of expect in this series. Baltimore does have an issue a little bit with their pitching. I think on one of the previous shows, was it Hollow Point that pointed out, I think he's a Baltimore guy, that he had an issue with the pitching of Baltimore. He felt like that was the weakness. So keep an eye on that throughout the series. When you look at the last 5, KC went 3-2, Baltimore went 4-1. So they have a little bit more statistical edge there. The key matchup for this series specifically is going to be the shortstops of Bobby Witt Jr. Versus Gunnar Henderson. Both of them are playing great. Obviously, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be most likely the AL batting champ there. So, again, statistically, it goes to KC there. When you look at the head-to-head, though, Baltimore owns the series between them at 4-2. When you look at the runs, Baltimore's got 29 to KC's 27. And when you look at the home runs, KC has 6 and Baltimore has 5. And then when you look at the ERA, KC's at 4.75 and Baltimore is at 4.58. So again, Baltimore does own the regular season series against them. Interestingly enough, I thought was interesting was Adley Rutschman and Bobby Witt Jr. were the top 2 picks in the 2019 amateur draft. Bobby Witt Jr. obviously was for the Royals and Adley Rutschman was for Baltimore. And it seems like these guys have come full circle since that 2019 draft to be here now in the wild card series, respectfully. So I just think that's an amazing stat line right up there with A.J. Hinch going against his former ball club. Lots of good storylines, I think, are in this AL series. Bobby Witt Jr. is 332, and it looks like he should get, like I said, the battle title. But I'm going to give this to the Orioles, Logan. I think the Orioles just have a little bit too much for this KC team. So I'm going to give it 2-1 in favor of the Orioles.
Yeah. We've been saying for a couple of years, really kind of since we've been doing the program, about the farm system for Baltimore. And they have come up and they have contributed. You mentioned, the main 2 are going to be Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, who are doing great work there on the infield, like you mentioned, at short and behind the plate. So they're doing good in that regard. But like you said, here lately they have been lackluster. They haven't been nearly as dominant as earlier in the season. And you never want to stumble into the playoffs, Jay. However, this is a good ball club, right? We know that Baltimore is solid and that when they are clicking on all cylinders, there is a reason why a lot of people thought that they would run away with the AL East, that they would, take the division and have a deep playoff run. And I think they still got that in there, Jay. I think that this will be a really solid series. they have a lot of young guys on this roster. It'll be interesting to see if they can step up in, the brightest lights they're going to face so far in their young careers. I guess just a wild card series, but that's still your chance to move your team forward one step closer to raising that trophy come the end of October and not the beginning. So I am going to rock with Baltimore in this series. I think Kansas City's going to put up a fight, though, Jay. This is going to be one that, honestly, I think can go 3 games because, also, I'm a baseball fan. I want to watch that. I think it's going to be a really fun series to watch. So I think it'll go 3, but ultimately I'm going to go with the O's taking the win over Kansas City this wild card series. Moving over, Jay, let's go over to the National League side of things. We'll go up top there with the New York Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers. And as we saw, and we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, Braves and Mets split their final games of the series after Hurricanes halted it earlier in the week. And they said, all right, if you win one, you're in. If you win both, you knock one out. They split the series. And we're talking about the Mets here taking on the number 3 seed, Jay. A lot of people forget this, in the Milwaukee Brewers. So how are you feeling about this series? Do you think the Mets are going to struggle against Milwaukee? Because, look, I mean, I would say outside of the dedicated fan base, you don't hear much about that team.
Yeah, for sure. Again, we just mentioned this in the previous team matchup. Corbin Burns obviously left the Brewers and went on to, I think it was at Baltimore, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, they obviously lost a big time pitcher there. Matter of fact, they lost a lot of players. And you look at Christian Yelich. He's probably one of their best hitters. And he's on the IR right now with some health issues. So this Brewers team and this Mets team really, the fact that they're here is amazing. Neither team was expected to even get this far, Logan, and the fact that they have is crazy. Again, this is a 4:30 afternoon game on ESPN for those who want to check it out. Frankie the Yankee, one of his former pitchers on the Yankees, Luis Severino, is going to get the start as the righty versus Peralta for the Brewers. So it's a battle for the righties. When you look at the team stats, New York is at batting average is at 246 to Milwaukee's 248. The runs are at the runs are at 768 for New York to 777 for Milwaukee. And let me tell you something. Let me just stop right there. Anytime you got 777 for your team as runs, that just knows that God is there for you, and He is shining brightly on your team, right?
You can smack the cover off the ball.
777 is a magical number, if I'm not correct. So
you're right.
I'm going to go right there. He just tells me I feel like Milwaukee's going to take this one. But let's look a little deeper, shall we? When you look at the hits, very, very close at 1357 for New York, 1359 for Milwaukee. When you look at the home runs, though, it goes back to New York at 207 to 177 for Milwaukee. But then it gets a little crazy. When you look at the on-base percentage, Milwaukee owns at 326 to New York's 319. And when you look at slugging, it goes to 415 New York, 403 for Milwaukee. So it really goes a lot of back and forth. But I think that Milwaukee still has competitive advantage on that offensive side. When you switch over to the ERA side, Milwaukee has a better pitching at 3.65 to New York's 3.96. When you look at the whip, it's at 1.23 Milwaukee to 1.26 for New York. And then when you get to the walks, it's at 586 to 494 in favor of Milwaukee. Strikeouts at 1455 to 1373 in favor of New York. And then the opponent's batting average is 230 for New York. And then Milwaukee's at 237. So a lot of the statistical categories are fairly close. But I do think, though, that Milwaukee has a little bit more of the statistical edge. When you look at the last 5, New York is coming into the postseason at 2-3. Milwaukee's coming in at 3-2. Obviously, New York had to fight for their playoff lives against none other than your Atlanta Braves to even get this far. So the fact that they were able to split that double hitter on Monday and knock out the Arizona Diamondbacks does give the Mets a little bit of momentum, I think, on their side, right? They're feeling pretty good about themselves. We'll see how that translates when they meet up with Milwaukee later on this afternoon. Milwaukee won their second straight divisional title, which I think is amazing. Milwaukee, though, hasn't won a playoff series, Logan, since reaching Game 7 of 2008 in National League Championship Series. So it's been a little while for Milwaukee, right?
15 years.
Yeah, matter of fact, Logan, they lost 9 of their last 10 playoff games. So it's been very rough for Milwaukee. The Gold Club defense that they have should hopefully help them against this New York Mets. But they have had a tough go of it in this playoff series or a playoff period. And I'm hoping they can turn it around because I would like to see the Brewers get back into it a little bit more than the Mets. Because let's be honest, New York already has the Yankees in there. I really don't want to see another New York team advance on that. You know, I think I've had enough of New York. When you look at the matchup tonight, you got Peralta for Milwaukee at 11-9 and a 3.68 ERA. He's 0-1 with a 3.64 and 4 postseason appearances. So his postseason, his ERA is a little bit better, but he's lost. He's lost his only playoff appearance, right? When you look at New York Severino, he's 11-7 with a 3.91 ERA. So the advantage does go to Peralta tonight. My question here is, what does closer Edwin Diaz have left in the tank for New York after throwing 66 pitches the past 2 days? That's a lot, Logan. That is a lot. And that could be a huge hindrance for New York defensively and pitching. Milwaukee's outfielder, Sal Frelick, if I said his name correctly, bruised his left hip, chasing a foul ball on Friday. So I don't think you're going to see him in the game. And last point I'm going to make, and I'll turn it over to you, Logan, is the Brewers are 12-14 versus the Mets, 5-0 against New York this year alone. The Brewers have stolen 17 bases in 6 games versus the Mets. And because of those specific reasons, I'm giving the edge this series to the Milwaukee Brewers.
All right. I know that's going to make a lot of New Yorkers upset. You know, it is what it is. I'll start with the Mets, and I'll go more in detail in it in a minute. But what a 2-game set that was yesterday. My God, that was a classic way to end the season. All eyes on you, right? Those are the only games played yesterday, and just what a fun series it was. Nerve-wracking, but hey, we've got the best of both worlds, Jay, and the NL East is represented by not 1, not 2, but 3 teams in there. So pretty high chance that a team in that division will make it to the World Series, if I had to guess. When I look at these teams for New York, it's really, can Francisco Lindor stay as hot as he's been, Jay? Because he has just been tearing the cover off the ball here lately. In the month of September alone, he is already just hitting great. He's hitting .311 on the month, a .607 slugging percentage, and a .989 OPS. So he's getting on base, and he is doing a tremendous job. He's got 5 home runs and 12 RBIs throughout this past month. So he is really getting rolling at the best time. However, who is getting colder, Jay? And that is their power bat. That is going to be Pete Alonso. He's paid to hit home runs. He's paid to drive guys in. But, Jay, he's got 5 home runs and only 12 RBIs in the span of September and 32 strikeouts. It has his average for the month at 222. So he is coming off of a rough month. We'll see if he can get things turned around really after just a month he would like to forget in September. Now, for this game here, as you mentioned, it's going to be the case of how is the bullpen for New York going to recover after the slugfest that was yesterday. It saw a lot of different pitchers on the mound. You mentioned that Diaz, their closer. If I had to guess, Jay, they might not have him go out there game 1 just so he can get a little bit of R&R for his arm. He threw a lot of pitches, as you said, 60 plus. So that is a lot more than any closer will throw. A lot of closers throw not even 30, if that. So for him, it's taxing on his arm. If I had to guess, we're not going to see him in game 1. No. And for me, you can throw a lot of guys out there in the bullpen. they pitch in high leverage situations. A lot of them do. And I get it's not your designated closer, Jay, but I feel that if you are in the bullpen at any point in time, I should be able to call on you and say, hey, I need you to go out there and I need you to just more so keep this lead. I don't care what inning it is in. So you're not going to have your A+ out there in your bullpen, I don't think, today. But if the opportunity is there and you need someone to hold on to a one-run lead, you got to go with somebody. As for Milwaukee, a team who doesn't get a whole lot of respect, unfortunately, that's because they are, you could say, in a quote-unquote smaller market, even though their baseball here, as you said, in the last couple of years has been great. They have won their division out there in the Central, and they did this year, Jay, with, I mean, honestly, relative ease. There wasn't a whole lot of big-name competition in the Central this season. The Cardinals fell on their face. The Reds aren't there. The Cubs had a disappointing season, and the Pirates, we'll just have our boy Mark Marietti talk more about them at a later date, and he can tell you how they did this season, and not so many words we can use here. But I think that when you look at Milwaukee, it's going to be really, Jay, how can the power of will do? And I say that will because you have William Contreras and Willie Adames. How can they do this postseason? Those two guys are your leaders offensively. You mentioned Christian Yelich isn't there, a veteran, but you've got to have some other guys on your team contribute. And if you want to win this series, you're going to have Bryce Terang, your second baseman, Jackson Chourio, another guy who's hit 275 on the year. How's he going to do? This is a young team in terms of they have a lot of younger talent and a lot of guys who've not been in the league for a super long amount of time. And they're throwing out Freddie Peralta on the mound, at least for game one. We're not going to know the other starters yet for just obvious reasons. But Peralta, you look at him, he's 11-9 on the year, 3.63 ERA, which is top 30 in the league. And watch out for this, Jay, 200 strikeouts. He is top 11 in the league this year. So you're throwing out a guy who is he's a veteran. Freddie's been in the league for a little bit of time now, and like I say, he's 28, but he has pitched a lot of baseball throughout his team. He's been with the Brewers since 2018, and he's been pretty much your guy to go to day in and day out for many years now. So you're getting someone who's been with the team for 7 years now. Fans love him. They're going to want to rally behind him for game one. And I mean, Jay, honestly, and I'm not saying this as a Braves fan, but I mean, you're the one who said it first. I'm liking Milwaukee in this series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's too much of a crazy thing to say. I mean, obviously, regular season wise, they had a better record. The Brewers had 93 wins, for God's sake, and the Mets had 89. But when I look at this New York team and I look at just who all is going to be available, because Jay, I found this stat when I was doing some research. I believe it's 75% of the teams who win game one go on to win the whole series in a best of three. So if you win game one, there's a pretty high chance you're going to take it away and win the series overall. I say, and I think Jay, he agrees with me, it's going to be a struggle for New York and that bullpen. I mean, in game two, you had three pitchers. You had Joe Lucchesi, Brasman, and Ottavino, right? Combined, they threw all the innings they needed to. So you used three pitchers there, and that was your B team, right? Those are your guys who, I mean, there's a reason they were in that game, and not the insanity that was game one. But when you dive deeper into specifically just the Mets bullpen and their starting rotation in the first game of the series, Jay, you had five pitchers in total. You had Miguel, you had Brasman, who I mentioned, but only pitched for a batter. He was just there. Ottavino pitched for an inning, but like I said, he one inning isn't going to kill him. And then you had Phil Maton and the big one I've got circled, right? So you've used a little bit of the middle relievers, but then you get to the back end. Then you get to Edwin Diaz. 1 2/3 innings. He gave up 3 hits, 2 runs. And Jay, he threw for 40 pitches yesterday. And excuse me, man, I'm scared if I'm New York. Can my bullpen hold up? Are they going to be able to? And also, too, and we're talking about more with the Braves because the Braves have it worse. The travel. My God. You just played a doubleheader. Yeah. Your team's beat up. And then you have to travel on the road to American Family Field out there in Milwaukee. I like the Brewers in this one, Jay. I really do. I think they got a good team. All right, but let's wrap it up here. Braves and Padres. Whew. What a day that was, Jay. What a day that was for me. I'll start off, and I'll give you the keys to the car afterwards. What a 2-game set. My God. That was, I will say, as a baseball fan, love the game, right? It was a tremendous game. Had the lead, lost it, had it again, lost it again. Then you go out and win game 2 for Atlanta. Grant Holmes, as we were talking about in our group chat, is just the second coming of Kenny Powers from Eastbound and Down. And I will say, Jay, for a guy who wasn't even expected to start, he rocked it in game 2. A bullpen guy did his job and did it to a great ability. He was throwing strikes. He was just whatever you asked him to do, he was able to do it for the team yesterday. And I know, when you look at the game and how it went, game 2, because that was the deciding game there, or the second game. Game 2, it was just 3-0. It was domination. I mean, the Braves only gave up 3 hits on the day in that second game, which is a nice thing to see, right? As a bullpen, after they collapsed in game 1, that's nice to see. They only gave up 3 hits, and they struck out 11 batters in game 2. And as I mentioned, Grant Holmes threw for only 4 innings, Jay, but he's a bullpen guy. He's not going to eat innings like that. But 4 innings of 1 hit, 1 walk ball with 7 strikeouts on the day. Jay, he threw 53 pitches, 35 of them were strikes.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for. The Braves did use a lot of arms to get the win, but you're going to throw your better guys out there also for game 2 if you can. They got Iglesias to throw a little bit, to throw for an inning. Jimenez, who is the one who unfortunately gave up the lead in game 1. But Jay, he came out, game 2, got it done, just 1 inning. He threw 11 pitches, 7 of them strikes. He's able to get it done. And then Hernandez ended up getting the win on the mound in relief, 1 2/3 innings, 2 strikeouts, 25 pitches on the day, 16 of those for strikes. So he was also efficient. The Braves only threw 114 pitches as a team. 77 of those were strikes. That lets me know that they were doing great jobs. As I mentioned, had 11 strikeouts. So they were able to get weak contact and also able to fan a lot of batters in game 2 of the series against New York. Now, looking ahead now to San Diego, it ain't going to be easy. Travel-wise, you're going from the East Coast to the West Coast. You're going pretty much sideline to sideline on the U.S. map to get this game played today. Look, if San Diego was in any other division, Jay, my God, they would. When you look at the 2023 standings, right? When you look at those, and you see just how well San Diego did. I know a lot of people might just look at it and say, "Oh, what's he? Oh, they're a wild card team. They're not that good, right? They just kind of got it." No, not for this team. This team got 93 wins and 69 losses. Jay, they would have been tied with the Brewers. They would have been first in the AL West. They would have been first in the AL Central. And they would have been right there with the just 1 game behind the Yankees. So that is how good this team was, and they dropped to the wild card because the Dodgers had the best record in baseball, 98 wins on the year, for God's sake. This is a good team. This is a really good team in San Diego. Obviously, you know that they've got the star power, their lineup with Tatis, with Machado, Luis Ariz as well, who is just one of the best hitters in baseball since he came into the league. They've got pop. They've got guys who can hit. Jake Cronenworth as well. But then you look at their pitching rotation, who they've got. You've got Dylan Cease and Michael King. Both of those guys are great pitchers, have ERAs each of under 350 rather. So those guys are your workhorses. You go to them. Then you've got Matt Waldron as well as a number 3 starter. You can probably get something going on him. Joe Musgrove, I mean, we've seen in the past, Jay, he's a guy who he can turn it up in the postseason. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a little bit worried this year as opposed to years past because the bats they're getting there, but they are not what they were last season. They're hitting home runs left and right. They're getting there. Some of your guys are doing better. It's the crazy thing about the Braves too is with all the injuries they've had, a lot of guys who they've just kind of picked up off the side of the road are doing great work for them, like Urshela yesterday, like Ramon Laureano, like Jared Kelenic, some of the guys who they took chances on said, we just need y'all to come in here and help out. And they've done really good jobs in the lineup. But as a fan, Jay, I've said before, once I thought Acuna went down, that might have been the nail in the coffin because you already lost Strider at the beginning of the year. Then you lose your top hitter. And then it just keeps going. You lose Albies for some time, Sean Murphy for some time. And then with a little bit of time, just I think less than a month left in the season, they officially say that Austin Riley is done for. So that's a lot of power, a lot of veteran leadership, a lot of just really good talent that you've lost. But, I mean, just the fact they were able to make it this far, I'm surprised. I didn't think they'd have a chance at even getting in the postseason. I thought they'd be around maybe 500. So, for me personally, I think this team's exceeding their expectations. And if this is where they go out, this is where they go out. I can accept it, and I can respect it, and, hopefully everyone's rested up real well for 2025. So, I think I will have to go, Jay, with the Padres as taking off any bias, any rose-tinted glasses, and looking at it evenly. And I think that's how it'll go. And it does hurt me, Jay. It does hurt me to say that. But you know how I am. I'll call it down the middle, and I think San Diego might have this round.
Yeah, absolutely. It's refreshing to see a fan that is realistic about their teams.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm the same way with my Cowboys. I feel like I'm realistic about what I can expect. A lot of times these fan bases, they get a little crazy or a little wonky on that, but
yeah, they really don't look at it.
Fan base people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, though, yeah, it's a late game today, right? So
I can't watch it. It's too late for me. I got to go to work at 4 a.m, Jay. I can't watch this game, unfortunately. I'll have to wake up and see if my day is going to be good or bad.
Yeah. It's a 7:30 start time on ESPN. Atlanta is undecided, and I think the reason why they're undecided was Sale was supposed to start, I believe, game 1.
I didn't even touch on that. Okay.
I got you, Bub. Look,
like I said, they
decided right now because Sale is on he's day to day. You could get Sale possibly at the end of the series, but again, I'm almost kind of, if I'm you, Logan, I'm almost thinking like Sale doesn't exist. I mean, we're going to work what we have, and that's what we're going to focus on. So we're going to put Sale off to the side like he doesn't exist, and we're going to focus on what we have left. King, like you said, is going to get the start. He's a righty. He is 13-9 with a 2.95 ERA with a 1.19 WHIP. I think possibly the two guys that could get the possible start is Fried. He's 11-10 with a 3.15 ERA and a 1.16 WHIP, and he's got 166 strikeouts. Mm-hmm. The other one that could possibly get the start is Ronaldo Lopez. He's 8-5. He's got a 1.99 ERA and a 1.11 WHIP and 148 strikeouts. So if I'm them, I'm probably going to lean towards Lopez and see what he does, and then say Fried for the second game. After that, but that's neither here nor there. We'll have to see who actually gets to start tonight. Like you said, you do have some injuries. Acuna Jr. is also out for you guys. That's a big time injury for you guys. When you look at the stats, when it comes to average, when it comes to run, when it comes to the hits, it's all owned by San Diego. When it comes to the home runs, it's in favor of Atlanta at 213 to 190. When you look at the on-base percentage and the slugging, it then shifts back over to San Diego for those two categories. But then, when it slides over to the ERA side of life, Atlanta does have the advantage at 3.49 to 3.86. But again, some of that has to do with having Sale in there. Not that Sale's not in there. That obviously that's going to be affected a little bit. You guys own the whip, you own the walks, you own the strikeouts, all that over San Diego. When it comes to the batting average, just a fraction of a whatever you want to call it is in favor of San Diego at .236 for Atlanta to .238 San Diego. So it's almost a wash. But I think when it comes to hitting, I think San Diego has you. But I think when it comes to pitching and stuff in terms of those nature ERAs and stuff, I think that's in favor of Atlanta. Atlanta does own the series, or excuse me, on the last 5, they're 3-2, and San Diego's 2-3. But when you look at the head-to-head, San Diego does have Atlanta by 1 game. It's 4-3 in favor of San Diego. Logan, I think you guys have done a hell of a job to even get in the postseason, given your injuries and things of that nature. But I think at the end of the day, though, I think this is just going to be too much of San Diego. And so for those reasons, I am, like you, I'm going to give the edge to San Diego. And I think it's going to be 2-1 in favor of San Diego.
I can respect it, Jay. And yeah, you mentioned Chris. I didn't even say his name because it's so recent that it just – I got to keep looking down the list, right? His name is like the 18th name now that's been on the IL for Atlanta this year. So – yeah, well, I don't think we're going to get him back this season, or excuse me, for the series. If we go further, I'm sure he'll work his way back. The guy just won the NL Triple Crown, and it's probably going to look like a Cy Young year potentially. But yeah, I think this might be it. It's a damn good team, and it's going to be a rough one. It's going to be a fun battle though, and I'm excited to see it, Jay. But it's time for the postseason. You ready? You got your
snacks ready
tonight? You're good to go, and.
T-minus 25 minutes, baby.
All right. Well, sounds good. And with that being said, Jay, I will let you get out of here and we can go and watch our teams. But appreciate you coming on the show and talking about some wild card predictions. We'll be back, of course, each and every round up until the end. And then we got a lot of other stuff down the pipeline. So just stay tuned. For Jay McLovin, I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, we'll talk to you again on another live episode. It's good to be back.